Hello and welcome back to the L15weekly podcast in a week where Bayern won their 8th consecutive Bundesliga title and the Premier League and La Liga returned. We have plenty of action to cover here on the L15weekly podcast, so make sure you stay tuned right to the very end where we're going to be reviewing last night's Premier League action. We're going to be looking ahead to the weekend's games and all of the games coming up over the next week, and we're going to be talking about what the 8th Bayern title win means for the Bundesliga. So let's get straight into it.
The L15 weekly podcast on YouTube, giving you the latest news, views and opinions from the football world. Join me every Friday from 5 p.m. for a brand new episode of the L15 weekly podcast.
So without further ado, let's get straight into the action from the Premier League last night. Today is Thursday when I'm recording this for you, but there was still plenty of action going on in the Premier League where it made its return with a fairly boring draw, I'd have to say, between Aston Villa and Sheffield United. A game not too exciting, but one that was rather marred with controversy, if I'm being completely honest. One that brought a big goal line technology / VAR debate. I mean, it's not the Premier League without one of those. I mean, it was a very special game. I mean, there was lots of controversy surrounding this game. I mean, the ball was clearly in the back of the net from, I can't remember when it was really in the game, but Orjan Nyland caught the ball and it was far over the line. I mean, Norwood's deep free kick from the left wing caused problems for Nyland, who appeared to step beyond his goal line after colliding with Davies. The technology, there was no indication via the technology that the ball had crossed the line, but the replays did show that it did. And I mean, Sheffield should really feel aggrieved by that. You know, when points are so important in both ends of the table, really, with Villa, I mean, they should have lost that game. That's simple as, really. I mean, who knows how that goal would have impacted the game. But they should have lost that game. If the ball crosses the line, surely the goal line technology should be able to say, here we are, the ball has crossed the line. It's a very simple black and white question whether the ball goes over the line. You know, it's not very subjective like, you know, some of the calls for red cards or handballs that VAR has to make. It's black or white. Has the ball crossed the line or has the ball not crossed the line? Sheffield should feel aggrieved that they haven't gone on and got all 3 points there, because they would have been above Man United. I mean, it's astonishing that they haven't managed to call that correctly. I mean, Villa fans should feel lucky. I mean, every point counts, and they've just gained themselves a point in that relegation battle. But ideally, they should really be on 25 points rather than the 26 that they're now on. In terms of the actual game, Sheffield United had 55% of the ball compared to Villa's 45%. Villa did dominate in terms of chances created, but, you know, let that not take away from the fact that Sheffield, you know, blatantly had that goal disallowed. My man of the match was actually Jack Robinson, a guy who came into the squad. I think he is formerly of Nottingham Forest. Only made 3 Sheffield United appearances as of his debut. This was his debut in the Premier League. He's made a couple of FA Cup appearances for them, but a really strong Premier League debut for him, coming in for the not ever present Jack O'Connell, as Jack O'Connell was ruled out with an injury after a collision with Dean Henderson, the goalkeeper, in training. But Jack Robinson was player of the match with a rating of 7.9. He had the most tackles in the match with 3, 80% pass success, 46 accurate passes, a chance created as well. It was a really, really stellar performance from Jack Robinson, and I mean, you can really be pleased with the fact that that's his Premier League debut. But this match again marred with controversy. I mean, the visitors will feel aggrieved not to have taken all 3 points after the officials failed to see that. I mean, you know, I don't see how it's black or white. It's not subjective, as you know, like VAR to say if somebody makes a handball. You know, it's subjective whether that's intentional, whether you know, which part of the arm it's used and things like that. It's not black or white, but when it's black or white, as in has the ball gone over the line or not, you should be able to get that right. Why didn't VAR step in? You know, I don't understand that. I mean, I think goal line technology was off. I don't know why. I don't know why you'd switch it off. It's the opening game of the Premier League. A lot of the world are really watching at the moment. So Sheffield United will feel aggrieved, but a valuable point for Villa in their bid to survive. They are now, how many points are they away from escaping danger at the moment? I mean, I don't think they're too far away. They are now a point away from escaping the relegation zone. But it has to be said that I don't think they deserve their points there. We'll move on to the other game that was on last night, which was a more entertaining game. One that came, with a bit of a shambles from Arsenal, I suppose, at the back, really. But one person in particular who caused Arsenal more problems than a player in the back four of Arsenal that caused them more problems than any player from Man City did, and that's David Luiz, who came on after 24 minutes after an injury to debutant he's only played 2 appearances for Arsenal. It's not his debut, sorry, but he came off with an injury. David Luiz comes on. You think, oh right, that's a fair sub. You think, why would that's a reasonable sub to make, but he comes on. Firstly, he makes an error leading to the goal where he doesn't get his body behind the ball and lets the ball bounce off his thigh into the path of Sterling, where Sterling tucks that away. So there's a mistake there. Mistake number 1 leading to 1-0 to Manchester City. Then, again, I think it was Raheem Sterling who was charging in on goal. Raheem Sterling charging in on goal, brought down by... definitely brought down by David Luiz, and David Luiz then gets sent off. So David Luiz only playing 25 minutes, but single-handedly giving City the game. I mean, De Bruyne dispatched the penalty as you think he would, and then Foden added a goal later on in extra time. But you think if David Luiz hadn't have come on and made absolute clown of himself, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know. Can't you just get your body behind the ball for that first one? I can't really complain about the penalty being given away. I suppose sometimes you do have to bring a player down in terms to save your team, but just to get your body move to the left a bit. It was a bit lazy. He was sort of sticking a leg out at it, and he wasn't able to get that ball away properly. So it's a shame on David Luiz's part that he's just come on and made a clown of himself. Of course, the game was also marred with the fact that Eric Garcia had to come off after 89 minutes with a heavy collision with Ederson. I mean, it was fairly, I would say violent. I mean, 82 minutes it sort of kicked off. Ederson raced out of his box and he came out to punch it and took out Eric Garcia. His whole body weight went through the back of Eric Garcia. The physios were on there for honestly about 10 minutes, and they had to add on 11 minutes. But that was what brought Foden's rebound goal. I mean, City, it was a fairly slow tempo game to start with, but City were just dominating. They were just sort of playing Arsenal about, and when they went down to 10 men, and they're the last team you want to play 10 men with, City are, because they'll just pick you apart like that and they'll just keep passing through you. And it was an excellent game from City in the end. Raheem Sterling got my man of the match with a rating of 8.5. He created the most chances in the match with 5, and also got a lovely goal and won the penalty, which brought Man City. But David Luiz, I think it's time to move on from him, really. I have to echo the words of Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports last night. It's time for them to move on from him. I think they've got a decent defender in Pablo Mari, and I feel like he's going to be all right. I think he started quite positively in that game, actually. He was passing the ball quite neatly, looked fairly assured on the ball. And so did Eric Garcia before he got taken off. Eric Garcia, I must say, looked a real prospect in that game. I mean, he was working quite hard, but a shame that both of those players couldn't continue due to injury. Obviously, we hope that that Garcia's okay. I thought also a notable mention to Eddie Nketiah. He looked really good. Just they couldn't get the ball of it up to him. I mean, Aubameyang and Saka looked out of sorts, really. Xhaka have to go off earlier, but Aubameyang and Saka looked out of sorts. But Nketiah, if they got him a bit more service, he would have looked the part up front there for Arsenal. But overall, fairly dominant game from City. But that was mainly down to David Luiz's red card. If he hadn't got sent off, I don't think they'd have lost 3-0 really. So let's have a look at what's in store for this weekend in the Premier League. Obviously, I'm recording this on Thursday, so I'll refer to everything in that time frame. Well, before we start the Premier League, actually, we just need to mention, I don't think we'll go into much detail about it, but the League 2 playoff semi-finals are on. Colchester United play Exeter, and then Northampton versus Cheltenham. I think in the way of those playoffs, I'm just going to give my tips or who I think is going to win. So in terms of the Exeter-Colchester United game, I'm going to think that Exeter win. These are blind predictions. I don't claim to know much about League Two, but I'm going to give my prediction anyway. And I'm going to say Cheltenham and Exeter are going to win those particular games. But I think there's a second leg of those, so obviously, who knows what will happen in those ones. But we'll move straight on to this weekend's Premier League action. We'll start tomorrow in the Premier League, which is between Norwich and Southampton, which are two big teams, trying to fight for a bit of survival here. I suppose Norwich are in the worst position by a good few miles, really. I think they're struggling more than Southampton. Southampton are currently 14th in the table, looking fairly safe for relegation. Manager Ralph Hasenhüttl has just recently signed a new contract, so obviously Southampton will be fairly pleased with that. Norwich bottom by 5 points, so Norwich will need a win. Hopefully they can get out of that rancid bit of form they've been in recently. I mean, they last won at Leicester. I mean, the last game they played was on the 7th of March, so I suppose form isn't really very important at the moment, because it's like starting a new season. I said that about the Bundesliga, and I said that about the games, but it's like starting a new season. So I suppose that a lot of Norwich and Villa even, they won't be playing, but playing without crowds is a disadvantage for smaller teams, is what Hasenhüttl had to say in his press conference. I mean, there's lots of teams that are fighting around that bottom zone. I mean, you've got West Ham, Brighton, Watford, Bournemouth, Villa, Norwich. They're all fighting around that zone, and I'm sure that they'll be eager to get a win. I think Southampton are going to come out winners, though. I think they haven't lost to Norwich City in the last 3 meetings, and I mean, Norwich just struggle to defend. I mean, hopefully they'll have Ben Godfrey at the back for them. I mean, he hadn't played for. He only played a couple of matches, after being sent off in that game against Bournemouth. So, yeah, hopefully they'll have Ben Godfrey in that back four, maybe Tim Closer as well. It'd be interesting to see if they can have him back, because Onel Hernandez has got a bit of a knee injury, and Moussa Djenepo's sent off for Southampton. So, they're both at a bit of a disadvantage, because, obviously Onel Hernandez is a really tricky winger, and so is Djenepo, so obviously two wingers missing there. But then at 8:15 tomorrow, there is a big game between Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester United, which is 5th versus 8th. I mean, Tottenham not been in the best form. I don't think Jose's come in with that winning mentality that you'd expect from him. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, however, I've got a slightly different opinion of Man United. I think they're going to be really good. I just have a feeling they were in some terrific form, really. You have to say their last league game was against Man City, and they beat them 2-0, but they haven't lost since the 26th of January, be it they've played a few Europa League games here and there, but they've been really good. And I think that, it looks like Paul Pogba is going to be available for this game. I think he's going to decide to turn up in this game, so it'd be nice to see him play. I mean, I haven't seen him around the Manchester United pitch since since Boxing Day last year. But obviously, Paul Pogba is an amazing player, and hopefully, if you can see him, Bruno Fernandes, and Scott McTominay, and maybe even Fred linking up, that would be excellent. I mean, they've got some really good players in there, Manchester United, and so has Tottenham. Tottenham need to, have a little shake of their heads. I don't know what they were playing at before. Obviously coronavirus came in and cancelled the season, but they hadn't won since the 16th of February. I mean, they were losing to people like Norwich, losing to Wolves, losing to Leipzig out the Champions League. I mean, it's just not like Tottenham. Well, it is like Tottenham actually, but it's not like Jose. You'd expect Jose to come in and bring a bit of differentiation in a way. So unfortunately for Tottenham, it's not been for them. But Man United, I think, are going to run out winners. I think Man United have just got it. They've been really good before the coronavirus thing, but obviously they're a really good team now. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is steering them in the right direction, and I have full confidence that Manchester United will go and get a Champions League space. Obviously, if you listened to the podcast with Bish, I predicted Manchester United to come and get a Champions League space. Obviously, if you haven't watched that one, go and watch that already. I'd highly recommend doing that. But obviously, Bish didn't predict Man United in that top four, but I did. I have faith in Man United. I think they've got that. I think they've just got it now. I think they've got that sort of formula worked out, and I think they're going to be able to do it. But then on Saturday, there are some other big games. Arsenal playing again, as well as Watford versus Leicester, which is a game which is on at lunchtime. Leicester obviously have slipped off a little bit since obviously before the coronavirus thingy-majiggy, but they did beat Aston Villa in their last match. Obviously they'll be hoping that they can carry on with the Champions League space, because obviously there's still 9 games left, 9 rounds of fixtures left in the season, so Leicester aren't completely safe yet. I mean, there's still a chance that they might slip out of that top 4. They just need to be careful that they don't rest on their laurels. As for Watford, any point is very, very appreciated. They need points, Watford do. I mean, at the moment they're 17th. They're out the relegation zone by goal difference. They need to start picking up points. It is pivotal that they start picking up points. I mean, they were in a fairly dismal run of form. Obviously they won that game against Liverpool, but apart from that, before that they were on some trashy run of form. But I think Watford, they need to buck up their ideas if they are to stay in this division. And Leicester, they need to start looking behind their shoulder, because teams are coming and teams want Champions League spaces. But Arsenal play again against Brighton. They're away at Brighton in the only 3 o'clock kickoff. I mean, oh God, Arsenal. What are we going to do with Arsenal? I mean, they're becoming a real meme in the football world. I mean, they were for a bit, but they're definitely becoming that again. I mean, dismal. David Luiz, I mean, I can't even go on about that enough. But on to Brighton. Brighton, they need some points. They're just hovering above the relegation zone. I think they'll be all right for now. But I mean, Arsenal haven't beaten Brighton since Wenger was last in charge of Arsenal, so I wouldn't be optimistic about that. But as for West Ham, Wolves, West Ham again needing some points, but Wolves, they're looking up at those European spots, thinking, tasty, we could have a little bit of that. So hopefully, they'll want to go and get a bit of that and get a European spot. I mean, West Ham, they need some points. David Moyes in charge at the moment, obviously, but they have been on a bit of a dismal run of form. They've only won 1 game since Sunday the 5th of January, so West Ham, bit of worrying times for West Ham. And then a bit of a clash down towards the bottom. Bournemouth needing points against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace fairly safe in the relegation zone. I mean, Arsenal are only 1 point away from Crystal Palace, but obviously Crystal Palace doing fine under Roy Hodgson, the oldest manager in the Premier League. But Bournemouth, they are just inside the relegation zone on goal difference, so they'll be looking to pick up some more points. As for some more games in terms of the weekend's action for you, there is Newcastle United versus Sheffield United. Sheffield haven't lost in 7 matches, obviously. Feel robbed about the game against Aston Villa, that's understandable. But then Newcastle United in mid-table again, fairly safe from relegation. They'll be all right. But Sheffield United, they need some points. They needed 2 points against Villa, and they were absolutely snatched away from them, I'll say. So they'll be begrudging and hope to pick up the points against Newcastle in Newcastle's first game. And then Villa will play Chelsea. Villa haven't won in 6 games, but Chelsea, a bit of news if you haven't heard already regarding Chelsea. Timo Werner has signed for Chelsea from RB Leipzig. He'll be joining next month. He'll be joining on the 1st of July. So what an incredible signing from Chelsea. I mean, how on earth have they managed to get him? 50 million for a top-class striker, 24-year-old, until 2025. I mean, he's such a great striker. I mean, they've managed to fight off some of the biggest clubs in Europe, Liverpool, United, Bayern Munich. I mean, he's a fantastic player. He scored 32 goals in all competition this season. I mean, he's a Leipzig club legend, helping them get to the situation that they're in now. But he's got to move on to greener pastures, and that is Chelsea. And Chelsea are going to provide a great place for him. It's whether he'll play out on wide or up front. It'll be a great mentor for Tammy Abraham in helping Tammy Abraham reach his full potential. I mean, It'll be great to see how he gets on with him. And then Villa obviously need some points in this game against Chelsea, but I'm not holding out for them. I think Chelsea will definitely have the upper hand on them here. I mean, there's a couple of injuries. Jorginho suspended for this game. Callum Hudson-Odoi is injured, I think, as well. But the big game on Sunday is between Everton and Liverpool, the Merseyside derby, if you like. Liverpool haven't lost at Everton in their last 9 meetings. Everton have scored in their last 5 home games. Liverpool haven't scored in 3 away matches, and they are away here. So, will be interesting to see if they can carry on with their great form. I mean, Mohamed Salah and Andrew Robertson are doubtful for this game, so it'll be interesting to see if they can get themselves in. But obviously, they're striding away with the league. I'm not sure. Can they win it? Can they win it? I'm not sure whether they can. No, I don't think they can win it against Everton. But be interested to see how the Merseyside derby shapes up with Everton. Everton sort of mid-table at the moment, same sort of situation as Palace, Newcastle, Burnley at the moment. Interesting to see if they can claw anything back. And then Man City play Burnley on Monday night, and I don't think we can go through all those fixtures because there's quite a lot of them. But we will go on to talk about some of those in next week's podcast. I don't want to make things too long for you. I don't want to go crashing through loads of fixtures, but we'll leave Man City Burnley. Oh no, we'll go through Man City Burnley, why not? Man City have won the previous 4 matches against Burnley. Burnley safe in mid-table. Man City obviously getting that good win against Arsenal. They're never saying never with the title race, so it'll be interesting to see if they can get themselves hauling back up. So it'd be great to see if Man City can chase Liverpool down. So I feel like we've done the Premier League to death now, so we're going to talk, well, not really to death, but we've done enough Premier League now. So we're going to go on to talk about Bundesliga, and obviously it was a very fitting win for Bayern Munich. I mean, they went and won their 8th consecutive Bundesliga title. It's getting a bit boring now, isn't it? So it was interesting that they managed to go and get another title win. I mean, they've been so consistent in Germany. I feel like I don't really feel like there's much left for them. I mean, it's so incredible how they've managed to, sort of dominate the league so much since well, I mean, they've dominated it since 2012 to 13 season. They haven't lost one since then. I mean, even before then, it was still fairly dominant. They've still been runners up or something in every single one since about 1990. But obviously, they were dominant this season. They were absolutely bang on form. And it was really interesting to see how Dortmund really chased them till that last minute. I mean, they've started letting go now. They lost to Mainz the other day, but with a 1-0 win against Werder Bremen. I mean, Alphonso Davies was sent off, but I'm sure he won't mind, considering he's just collected that other Bundesliga title, second one for him, I think. Yeah, second one for him. So it's amazing to see him collect his first Bundesliga title for him. I think he won a trophy at Bayern too. So it's really amazing to see Alphonso Davies doing so well in Bundesliga. It's fairly closed. I mean, if you want to win that league, you've got to be special, because Bayern are a special team, and Bayern are just dominating those over and over again. So I think in terms of the Bundesliga, I reckon it's reasonably over. I think with the different manager, Borussia Dortmund have a good enough squad to face Bayern, but I don't think Lucien Favre was the man for the job this season. And that brings us to the end of the L15 Weekly podcast. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you drop a like, you subscribe, and you turn your notification bell on, so every time I upload, you will get it straight into your sub box. Make sure you comment down below, what you thought of this week's games and what you think of next week's games. How will they play out for you? So if you've enjoyed it, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the next L15 Weekly podcast. Goodbye.